Okay, now it should work, right? Please tell me that it's working. I still cannot see, right? Can you see me? Okay, now we are talking. Like seventh time the charm, I guess. Okay. Okay. I don't know, like I think my computer exploded or something, and now I've even lost. Why what? Okay, I think I've lost my Svelte changelog window. Okay. It should not be that difficult to reopen everything. Yes, Svelte. Let's open discussions and asynchronous Svelte. I'm really sorry, guys. This is good. Gosh, it's very annoying. Okay, let me open this too. And now we are talking, I guess. Okay. Separate all tabs. Okay. We are here. Welcome everyone to this week in Svelte number 102. I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing like this ever happened. So it's all fine. It's perfectly fine. Let's jump right into it because we have a lot to talk about today. And let's talk about the changelog, which maybe in line with today is actually empty. We have no changelog for Svelte because we didn't cut the release until last week, but because a lot of people are traveling because there's some very special event next week. There's a lot of work be done in branches that are not yet to be merged, and we will talk about this in a second. But in general, there's been a lot of work going on in separate branches. So let's switch to SvelteKit, which has a new release. Only one single release, and it's to ensure that SSR and client-side rendered page options apply to error pages rendered as a result of a load function error on the server. So a small fix is just to basically allow, oh, that's nice. I don't know if can I edit this? I need to check. Because this is something that probably Antoine added that probably Antoine added recently. I don't know if it's pulling from GitHub or not. Let me highlight one message though from Freddy Maya Torres. I don't know, sorry if I butchered your name, which asks, and it doesn't seem to be working. Cool, very cool. Okay, it's fine. It's saying what is links, and you'll see. We will talk about that. But basically, it's a brand new framework-ish to build native application just like React Native. We will see. We will talk about it in a bit. Let's see the releases for the rest of the packages. We have quite a few of release. So we have Adapter Cloudflare, which got a new release to upgrade Cloudflare worker types and update dependencies, nothing particular. Let's see Adapter Netlify, upgrade ES build, and that's it. adapter Vercel, upgrade ESBuild. So new release of ESBuild, it's doing stuff. Include edge light bundling condition when bundling edge functions. Okay. And also a new release for enhanced image. Add support for targeting enhanced image in CSS. Oh, this is pretty cool. I didn't know about this. Like, yeah, this is very cool. Okay, so yeah, this was the breaking change in enhanced image. So enhanced image, if you are not familiar with, it's basically a preprocessor that is maintained by the Svelte team, and it's used to basically have you can write enhanced image instead of just image, and actually it was changed to something like this, I think. Oh no, it's, we have decided against renaming this to this. Okay, yeah. So basically, you have this enhanced image, so you can write like just like a tag, and if you do something like this, basically you will get an enhanced image for free that instead of using normal image tag, it's actually using let me see if I can find something enhanced, because I actually never used this. Enhanced image, yeah. So basically, like instead of just using an image tag, it will pre-process your images to make several versions of your image and serve the right one based on the resolution of your users. It's a Vite plugin. So before it was just a preprocessor, now it was changed to be a Vite plugin, and this also allows you to basically target that element in CSS, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so basically if you want to set it up, you can just do something like this, and it's using image tools under the hood, and you can do something like this: enhance image source your image. This needs to be a Vite import, so like it basically needs to be a Vite asset that needs to be in your Vite project, and basically this will process all your images, all your you can also do something like this, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I have to use it more. I actually never worked on image heavy websites, so but this can absolutely help you. Okay, we have some question about links. We can talk about it later when we will showcase the links integration. So yeah, this was pretty cool. New release for enhanced image, which by the way also removed the unstable API warning. So that's pretty interesting. We also have a new release for the extensions, actually 17 minutes ago, while I was having trouble. Probably Simon released a new version of the extensions. So Fit support add missing imports on save. Wow, I didn't know this. Like, this is pretty cool. Basically, you can write something, and if there is a missing import on save, it will automatically add those imports. Robustify hoisting logic around prop types. So this was actually a problem that it was very important for the storybook team. Basically, like as you can see, like as you may know in Svelte, if you write a snippet that does not access any instance logic, you can also export that snippet and use that snippet inside the script module. This was having typing problem, like even if you add that snippet, if you were using the snippet in some, like passing that snippet to a function, it will throw a type error. It will work at runtime, but it will throw a type error, and now it's fixed. Ensure eligible snippet can be referenced in module script. Actually, this was the fix that I was talking about. Prevent error with unclosed tag followed by LF or end of file. This is absolutely nightmarish. In general, I think the fact that we have different line endings for Windows and Mac and stuff like that, it's one of the stupidest thing that we've done in the whole computer science field. And we also have invalidate module resolution when higher priority file is added. So pretty cool. Let's see if we have any other release. We have our release of language server, which probably is the same. Yeah, add import missing on save, invalidate module resolution. Those are generally in pair. We also have a new release for SV. So let's see, always add storybook after all other add-ons. I guess that's probably something to do with storybook being its own CLI. So yeah, this is a short that I got at DevWorld conference, and I'm wearing it. It's a complete short. So probably storybook being its own CLI means that if it doesn't find TypeScript, for example, it can complain, or if it doesn't find Prettier, it can complain, maybe. Or maybe it was not adding the Prettier plugin for storybook because it was not already installed. So yeah, I think it's a simple fix. Security upgrade Vite to avoid CVA 2025-32-39-5. This is something like Vite unfortunately has a lot of CVA recently, not because it's extremely unsafe, and most of these CVAs, which are public security reports, are only if you are using the host variable. So in Vite, you can do Vite dev --host to allow you to access your Vite dev server on your network. So if you are connected on the same Wi-Fi, for example, you can access your Vite dev server that is running on your machine on your phone, for example. So if you do something like this, obviously you are kind of exposing your network, like your dev server on your network. So if someone else is connected to your network, it can access your dev server that is running on your computer. So you need to be safe. Obviously, like if you have a strong Wi-Fi password, it's not an issue. If you have if you're not using this --host, is not an issue, but if you are using --host on a public Wi-Fi network and someone else connect to it, it can technically visit the dev server that is hosted on your computer. And this kind of CVAs are being basically, Vite is unfortunately being hammered because they found a vulnerability in this --host, and so a lot of people now are trying to break it in different way to obviously it's ethical hacking. It's not that they are trying to break Vite. It's just that if we know that it's breakable in this way, we can fix it. So it's actually a good thing. But yeah, if you are not using Vite with host, or if you're not on a public Wi-Fi network, it's probably fine. Let's move to Svelte check, which I guess it's the same. Yeah, it's the same. Bump VS Code, HTML, CSS language server. Ensure eligible snippet can be referenced. Yeah, prevent error with unclosed tag. It's the same as the other. And I think we have Svelte to TSX, which I suppose is the same logic. All of these are pretty much connected together because they're all in the same monorepo, and so they are generally published. And most importantly, they are very supported between one another. Like each one, like one change in one will probably require a change in multiple part of the monorepo. And that's why they are in a monorepo. So that's it for the changelog. It was a very short changelog today, but we have a bunch of things to talk, which is, by the way, also what the Svelte team was working under the hood. Like that's why there are not much releases. But before, this is the last chance for you to get a Svelte Summit ticket. I mean, it's not the last chance because you can still buy it up until the May 8 and 9, but it's the last chance for me to tell you to participate in Svelte Summit, because you will hopefully maybe like finally get rid of me reminding you of Svelte Summit every single week, because next week is Svelte Summit. So this means that with some of you, we may actually look each other into the eye and hug, and I can give you a Svelte sticker, and I can, I don't know, do something because I'm absolutely hyped to be at a Svelte conference May 8 and May 9, 2025, which is in 6 days. So in Barcelona. There are still a ticket for the live stream, so like you can still buy ticket for the live stream. So if you can't make it to Barcelona but you want to see the live stream, you can absolutely buy the ticket. It will be a private video on YouTube, a private live stream on YouTube, so you can rewatch it later if you want. If you don't have the ticket, the talks will be published sometimes later on YouTube as a standalone video. But if you want to participate in the conference, you can buy a ticket for the virtual for the live stream, and we also have still like tickets available for the workshop that will be the day before on the May 7th. The instructor is a great guy, and generally it's very funny, and I know I'm joking. I'm the instructor of this workshop. So please, if you want to learn everything about Svelte 5, it kind of like talks about how to migrate, but in general we will talk about all things Svelte 5. So if you are interested, we will even implement our very own JavaScript signals API from scratch. So if you are interested, please join us, and yeah, see you there. And by the way, like great talks, a huge shout out to our sponsors. And yeah, what Svelte promises, we actually have a title this time from Rich. And I mean, yeah, I'm hyped. I cannot wait to see you all. And the venue is super cool. I want you to come. Okay, that's it for the summit. Let's switch to something else that I've been personally working on. So I don't know if you know about it, but recently I started working full-time on Svelte, paid by my company, not my company, the company I work for, Main Matter. So what I started working on is the Svelte renderer API. So I don't know if you know about it, but in React, you can have something like ink. Let me show you. You can have something like ink. What ink is a way for React, like for you to build CLIs with React. So they have this example here. So you can import render and text from ink, and you can use all your React API, and you can do something like text color is equal to green, counter test passed, and this is the result if you run that program in React. Now, this is pretty cool, right? And this is achieved through the custom renderer API for React, which basically allow you and the React team to implement a way for React to add an element, like to specify what it means to add an element, to create an element, to set a prop, to have a children and stuff like that. So all this kind of stuff is something that is possible in React, and it's also possible in Solid Custom Renderer, for example. So I'll just open this. Sorry for the flashbang, but you can do something like this. Basically, you can create a renderer, and you can specify that create element is actually calling document.createElement under the hood. It's available in Vue, and it was missing in Svelte, because Svelte was always very focused on the web development. However, this means that, for example, if you want to have native, like React Native, it's actually a custom renderer for React. So if you wanted to have something like React Native in Svelte, you kind of were stopped, like you couldn't actually make it. There are ways to do it with Tauri, for example, or Capacitor that allow you to literally write like web technologies, and they will host your web technologies in a web view inside your application, and that's absolutely fine because they also give you hooks into the native API, which is something that is still a good thing. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but a lot of people actually wanted to write very native APIs, and there are some ways to do it. For example, there is Svelte Native. Svelte Native, it's using native script under the hood, which is like a sort of project that allow you to do kind of like this, and it work by monkey patching the document API so that they can actually create their element. But it will be much better for Svelte in general to have a custom renderer API, and that's what I'm working on. So my company is sponsoring my job on Svelte itself. So I'm working on Svelte to bring the custom renderer API so that we can use something that is similar to React Native, or even build CLIs with Svelte, which also will be very, very cool. So I've been working on this for the past month, I would say. I mean, I took a lot of vacations, so it's actually less, but I've been working on this full time for a bit. And it actually reached a situation where it's in a somewhat stable, not stable, like I don't want to say it's stable, but like there's still a lot of work to do. But I actually started implementing something, because the reason why all of these started is because of this. Sorry, I don't know who this guy is. Lynxjs.org, I think. Yeah. So some times ago, Lynx was released. So this Lynx is, again, ship native for more, unlock native for more. This is basically a new framework from ByteDance, which, by the way, is the guys behind TikTok. And they're even using this in some of their app, not their main app, not the TikTok, but in some of their app. And they're using this, and it's basically a framework that allows you to build a native application, truly native application. And it is framework agnostic. Now, obviously, like, unfortunately, React is still forced to be aware of. So they actually already built an integration with React. So when they released it, they actually implemented React Links, which is a way to build application with React. So if you can create these with RSpd, and then you have like thinking in React Links. So you can do something like text hello, and that's a component. You can do view, and you can do something like this, and this will actually build to a native application. And again, to do something like to use the framework agnostic links, you kind of need a custom renderer API. And I've been working on that. The API is not final yet, but I'm very keen, and that's why like initially it was not planned, but I actually got something working and I'm very hyped and I want to show you. So you can go, like, if you are interested, you can go here and there is a link in the description already. And this is the project that I've been hacking on to build. Like I've been working on the custom renderer API for a bit to actually implement the custom renderer. But recently, in the last like week or so, I've been working on actually putting everything together to build a custom renderer for Lynx. So this might change in the future because the API is not defined yet, and also probably there are better ways to do stuff. So doesn't take this and put it in production like this. Like this is a POC. I want to clarify. But with this, you can actually run an application with a native application built with Svelte. So I want to show you first, so you can scan this QR code. If you want to just try the application, you can see that you need to install Lynx Explorer. If you are on iOS, they only provide the pre-bundled version for the emulator. If you are on Android, which I am, sorry iOS guys, but if you are on Android, basically you can just download their APK and install it on your phone. And that's what I'm doing now. And if I connect my phone, I can show you through the Lynx dev tool. So you can open Lynx Explorer on your device and it will be connected. And you will find something like this. So basically, this is the app that you download and you have a way to scan a QR code. So if I go back to my page and I scan this QR code, I might need to zoom back a bit. Wait, to zoom back a bit, yeah. So if I scan this QR code with Lynx, sorry guys, okay. So now I'm actually opening, so if I open the Lynx dev tool, this is the very first app written in Lynx with Svelte. So I can add watch this week in Svelte, this, and I can say learn how to build a native app with Svelte. And I can toggle this and toggle this, and it is working and it's super cool. And I want to show you because obviously like this in itself is not that big of a deal because like this could just be a web app. But the very nice thing is that the component that is being rendered is this component here. So you can see that again, API still to be decided, but you can see that you have a Svelte option and you can define a custom renderer for this component. This can obviously also be defined globally. And then it kind of just works. You can define state, you can define like a proxy state, and then instead of using divs and instead of using spans, you can use the view, you can use image instead of using img, and like almost all of that works. Like the key block, you can use the each block, and the nicest thing is that you can even use CSS right inside your Svelte component, which is super cool. Like you can just do this and it will work. And CSS support for Lynx is actually incredibly cool because basically all of this just works. Like you can even use Tailwind, I think. It's very, very cool. Like even keyframes, if you saw, the Svelte logo was rotating every time I added a new to-do. And please don't judge me for my design skill, but the point is, all of this already, like, it's working, and it's so so cool. Like you can render a new component and use the if block, and like basically it works. And I'm hyped about it because again, it's a bit of a hack, so don't use it in production, but I cannot wait to ship this so that you can use it in your projects. So let's see. There should be some question, I think. Let me see. I can open OBS again. Let me see. So I've asked a question on how does Prism.js work for smooth object that they are telling everyone about sharing only one object between JS and native, so it reduced the data copying, but don't have a proof. I still deep researching into Lynx and Prism.js. Lynx is another framework that help you to make hybrid app just like React Native. Oh yeah, it was answering a question from before. Enrico is asking, is there a heavy maintenance effort needed for Lynx or native script once the Svelte renderer API is stable? So in terms of maintenance on the side of Lynx, I don't think so, because I can actually show you, like, I've built this custom renderer which use the Lynx API. So this is some API that Lynx exposes to basically like modify the object. So when you create an element, instead of just creating an element, it's actually calling this create element API or this create view API, create scroll view API and stuff like that. When you are setting inline styles, instead of just doing dot style is equal to that, you're doing set inline style and stuff like that. So in terms of maintenance burden on the Lynx teams is not that great. I don't think they even need to maintain this. There might be a bit of maintenance burden. Like this will probably, like, this is technically all on my project. So the Svelte team could provide a Lynx adapter if we want, and have that maintenance burden. If, like, I will probably in the future PR these to Lynx so that they can actually like create it, and maybe I can help maintain it. The point is there will be a bit of a maintenance burden on the Svelte team for the custom renderer API in general, because it kind of requires you to kind of have the same code for each block twice in the code base. We might be able to abstract it in a certain way, but we also don't want to abstract it too much, because the custom renderer needs to be able to run on every JavaScript. So in Node.js, in Lynx, in the browser, not in the browser, for Canvas or stuff like that. So we don't want to tie the custom renderer to something close to the web, which is how some of the part of Svelte are built today. Can you talk more about Lynx versus capacitor? Is it miles better? So that's a tough question. Define better. Because the point is, from the point of view of how you can do, it's probably kind of the same. Because at the end of the day, I think a capacitor or Tauri also has a way to integrate some native part in your application. So if you really need something like, I don't know, opening the camera, for example, you can technically, like, you should be able to do it through capacitor or through Tauri. Personally, I don't even see, like, I think most of the native feel of apps versus web view inside capacitor comes from animations. Like a native animation is very smooth, while a web view that is rendering a CSS animation is somewhat less smooth. Personally, I don't think I've ever felt this way. I'm a huge proponent of PWAs, by the way, so fight me for it, but I love them. So the point is, there might be an advantage in terms of performance and being closer to being actually native. Obviously, in terms of ecosystem, Lynx is very much behind. They just announced and the ecosystem is forming, but there are not much integrations, there are not much, even documentation is a bit scarce. They're working hard, and I mean, it's still backed by a pretty big company because ByteDance is the company behind TikTok, which is now even greater than Facebook, I would say. Maybe, I don't know if they're actually greater, but I mean, they're a big company, so they can spend time on it. Hi, is the AST modification when create a custom renderer? Is it AST modification? So there is some changes in the AST when you create a custom renderer. Mainly, yeah, there's some changes in the AST. So not in the AST actually, but in the transformation. So when you write a Svelte component, so let me open svelte.dev/playground. So when you write a Svelte component like this string first gets compiled to an AST, and this AST is actually like it's a regular element. So you have this h1, and there is a fragment, and with the node there is a text of hello, there is an expression tag with an expression of name, and there is a text of question mark and stuff like that. So we take this AST and then we use the AST to transform your JavaScript, like your string of a Svelte component, into this JavaScript output. The JavaScript output will be different when you use a custom renderer. Because like instead of using the internal client API, which again is kind of tied to the web, we will use the custom API, which is slightly different. It doesn't care about hydration and stuff like that. And also there will be some difference because obviously the custom renderer will be something that you define on your project. So we need to import your custom renderer and like use it inside this app. So it like the code will be very close to this. I don't think I can actually show you the result of these, and at least not quickly. I would have to change something, but you get it. The point is, if you're using a custom render API, there will be slightly different output code. And we are also, again, finalizing the API to allow for you to be able to use it in the best way possible. So that was it, the mini showcase. I don't know if you have any question about this, but now let's also talk about something else very interesting that has been announced in Svelte, and it's Asynchronous Svelte. So this is, as Rich is saying, it was released 4 days ago, and this is a long document. Get yourself a cup of tea. I'll wait. I will also drink a bit of water. Because it is a long document. Let's go over these changes. So that was what I was working on, and that's why I didn't work too much on the issues, for example, in Svelte. This is what Rich was working on, which is way cooler maybe, and way better and way difficultier than what I was doing. But I mean, he's Rich and I'm Paolo, so. So there is already a PR open, and you can actually install this version of Svelte with npm I package pr.new svelte at async. So if you do this, now you have the power in Svelte to use async. What does it mean? Well, it means that, oh, you also have to set these as a compiler option under the experimental in your Svelte config. And the reason why you need to do this is because, unfortunately, if you use it, there are some slight breaking changes. Don't worry, you don't have to, by the way, this discussion is also in the description. Don't worry, you don't have to rewrite all your app. Like, it's a very minor breaking change, in my opinion. But it is a breaking change nonetheless, and Rich will actually go over this breaking change in this discussion. So, yeah. You can also try out things in the Async playground. So we can open it in a new tab and take a look at how does it look. So this is some code that Rich wrote. So we have an app component, and we are importing this component here. And we are using a Svelte boundary. So Svelte boundary is something that is already existing, and you can pass a snippet with a failed snippet that will be invoked in case there is an error rendering a component inside the Svelte boundary. This is something similar, but you need to pass the snippet that is pending instead. So if you pass a pending snippet, this will unlock a wait for you. And what you can do with that is inside your component, you can just use a wait basically in three places. In the script tag, in a derived, so you can have a derived that awaits something, and in the template itself. So as you can see here, we have a P that is rendering count, and then it's rendering the await delayed count time 2. Now, delayed is actually just the good old wait for enough millisecond and then return the value, the function. So in this case, it's waiting for 500 milliseconds, and this means that whenever I'm changing something, the actual change will be reflected after 500 milliseconds when this await actually returns. And the nice thing is that obviously you can also do it with a derived, let fourth, I don't know if it's like this. So if I do derived, I can do await delayed, and I can return count time 4. So if I do this and I render fourth, you can see that now that is also updating after a while. And I can even use something that is much more delayed, like 2 milliseconds. Now, the first time around, you will actually wait, you will actually show the pending snippet, but the pending snippet will actually just be executed when the first time around. So in this case, this derived will actually be much slower than the other one. So when I click here, you can see that it's updating after 2 seconds. So obviously, like all of these, let's actually read from Rich, because he will probably explain it better than me. So obviously you will find bug. There is no way this is production ready. This PR that accompanies the discussion was at is at 15844. So this is going over like what frameworks like SvelteKit or Remix and stuff like that are doing, which is allowing you to host the load of the data inside the root, which is still a good pattern, and it's still something that you will probably want to use. But there are some cases and some components that they need to have their own data. They need to load their own data. And it's nice to have it. So, for example, React has a variety of primitives. You can use suspense that is kind of Svelte boundary. You can use start transition, use transition, and use. And obviously you can use React server components. Solid has create resource. It also has suspense and start transition and use transition. View allow you to use a wait inside script setup if a component is inside a suspense, but it's also experimental for them, and it only works for component creation, not subsequent update. However, since Svelte is a compiler, we can do something pretty interesting that like doesn't trade off usability for like ability. So what we wanted this API to look is that it was with minimal ceremony. We don't want to like do fancy stuff. We just want you to write the await keyword and don't use framework specific API and just use what JavaScript is. We want it to be flexible. It should be usable. You should be able to use it wherever you want, in the script, in a derived, in an if, and stuff like that. So we don't want you to be forced to write it in a certain way. This is also very important, parallel by default. Since expressions in the template can be safely assumed to be pure, sequential await expression need not result in sequential async work. What does it mean? I think there is an example later, but if I do something like this, for example, and I don't use a derived there, but I just use the await there, you can notice that this is not taking 4 seconds. Let me actually do, let's say, 5,000 milliseconds. Now, by default, if you do something like this would take, like, imagine that JavaScript is interpreting this script line by line. When you get here, you will wait 500 milliseconds, and then you will get here, and you will wait another 200 milliseconds. This is not what is happening here. So if you click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, it's 7. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe it's a bug. I don't know. The point is, it should be parallel by default. It means that even if you await both of these, it should just wait the slower one, basically. Automatic coordination means that if foo changes and await bar foo is visible on the page, any occurrence of foo in the UI should not update until bar.foo resolve. So this should be like, it means that basically what I showed you before, like count is displayed here, but since there are some other things that depend on count, count will not update until the rest actually resolved. And this will basically allow you to have consistent data, because otherwise, if I click 3 times here and count already update, it will feel weird, because basically you will see the count update and you will not see the rest update. So the UI is not coherent with itself. And overlapping update, a state change that happens while asynchronous work is ongoing should be visible immediately without waiting for the work to complete, unless it results in more async work. So what it means is that if I have something like count 2, and I'm actually doing count 2 like this and count 2 like this, this technically, like, despite being in a template where there is this await keyword in, this should not be tied to count. So even if some work is doing, like, this is immediately reflected. And again, this might, this is definitely a bug. Wait, it is? No, oh, sorry, this is count. Sorry. So let me actually show you count 2 so that I can So this is loading, and when count 2 changes, obviously it's immediate because nothing depends on it. If I change this and I change this is immediately reflected, despite other asynchronous work being executed already. So that's like useful, because obviously if this doesn't depend on anything asynchronous, there's no reason for it to be slowed down. So again, basically you can just use await in the script tag, in a derived, or in the template. For the moment, you need to wrap every component that wants to do it inside a Svelte boundary with a pending snippet. This might be relaxed in the future. Will likely be relaxed in the future once we figure out the rest. If state is read inside the derived, a template expression with an await changes to that state will not be reflected in UI until the expression resolve, which is what we showed. If you want, you can actually use $effect.pending to show the snippet, like to show the loading state in another area that is not within the boundary. Use cases. So this is some cool demo that Rich implemented. So this is to preload images to avoid junk. So basically what this is doing is you are rendering this image, and this image component, what it does is let me see. Yeah, basically it's fetching to this beacon ipsum like this, and then it's returning the JSON, and basically remove the preload. So basically we are awaiting this caption and awaiting the preload source. So the caption is basically the caption is like it's fetching the caption in the which is this thing, and at the same time it's actually preloading the image. And so the problem with this is that obviously like this will try to preload the image source, so it will try to you have a timeout of 1 second to preload the image, but it will basically start to fetch the image so that it's immediately available. And so what this does is that basically whenever the source changes, the image will fetch immediately, and then the caption will actually be fetched at its own pace, basically. So basically you can randomize the picture, and I don't know, I think I have to zoom it in to see it, but basically you can see that this is preloading the image, and if you remove preload and you just pass source, you will see layout shift like this, because basically this is changing the image when the image it's loaded in place of the old one. It still need to fetch that image from the client, from the beacon ipsum, and since it needs to fetch that image, initially it has no dimension. Obviously you can solve this by setting a specific dimension to the image, but it's a nice thing to be able to preload an image like this, so that instead of loading and then fetching the image, you are fetching the image while the caption is being generated, and then it's basically for free, because you are doing work inside preload while the caption is being Let's see some other example of this. You can lazily import module and component. This is actually something that is pretty interesting because you can probably do something like this. So you import component and you can see that you have two different components. You have a large component and you have a small component. And this will take time to load, and you can awaiting the import of that component so that when the window is large, it will change the component. The nice thing about this is that obviously, like, you could statically import both, but these also allow you to have lazy loading. So if you have, like in this case, there are only two components and they are very small. Imagine you have 10 or 20 or 50 icons, for example, that are Svelte components, and you need to pass a string to load the right one, and you don't want to load all of them because otherwise you will load 50 icons even when you have only one, and you don't want to use the await keyword, like the await block, because you want to be able to actually currently it doesn't work, but like the point is with these you will also be able to SSR a component in the future. Right now it's not working, but in the future there will be the thing, and so with this you can basically just do you can await the import of the right component and then load it in the app. You can also move expensive computation to a web worker. So since web working, like if you want to do it on a web worker, for example, isPrime, it's actually something that it's expensive to calculate. And so what you do is you create this isPrime thing, you create a new a new blob and a new URL, you create a worker for that code, and then you actually listen on message and fulfill the promise. So this is something that you can do. This is just a way to create a worker on the fly, basically. But the point is, you will be able to send some information to the worker and receive that information back when it's done asynchronously, and you can do it like this. So in this case, you actually have a Svelte boundary, you have oh yeah, I was not looking at the input, I couldn't find the input. So 1 is prime false, 2 is true, 3 is true, actually 1 is prime probably, 5 false, blah blah blah. You can see, like, obviously it's pretty fast in this case because it's not that hard of a computation, but if I do 110, maybe it's a bit different, and obviously this is not prime, but you get it, you get it. Okay, so as we were talking before, like, you need to avoid waterfall. So if you write something like this, you need to try to do as much work as possible in parallel. Otherwise, you will wait for this, and then you will wait for this, and then you will wait for this. And the same obviously happens if Wise Monkey has some async data inside it. So, not all work can be parallelized. Any await expression inside the script run before expression in the template. And in the sequence, you would expect A, B, will be calculated, and then B will be calculated. Yeah, obviously, like, so. Yeah, basically, like, this will, like, in the first script tag, so when you run the first script tag initially, this will actually wait for the result of foo, and then it will wait for the result of bar. When X changes later, it's already handled by the orchestrator of Svelte, so it will not be a problem for future updates. But you can actually prevent something like this by doing something like this. So you have a derived that actually return a promise, and then you await the promise. And this means that foo and bar will start together, and then the derived will await that promise at its own pace, basically. So as of future work, as I was saying, Async SSR is something that we are looking for to work on. Today, if you do that, basically the whole Svelte boundary will be substituted by the pending snippet. So use it with caution, because if you have a global Svelte boundary and you use async everywhere, it's in somewhere in a leaf, it will actually replace your whole application SSR. So use it at your own risk. It's actually easy because you just need to wrap that component in a Svelte boundary to fix it. But the point is, in the future, we will actually have async SSR, which means that it will actually wait on the server. Another thing for the future is forking. So, for example, in SvelteKit, we preload the code and data necessary for a navigation before it even occurs. So when you over a link, before you even tap it, we import the module, we start the data fetching and stuff like that. But to make this work in a world where asynchronous work happens inside component, we need to be able to pretend that a state change occurred and do the resulting updates off screen. The result can be either be applied or discarded. What does it mean is that the moment you hover on a link and you import a component and then you start fetching, you need to actually invoke the component, and the component needs to actually start fetching the data, and then you might just discard that thing. So forking is basically that. Like, it's applying, it's pretending that a state had changed, and after that you can either accept the actual change or discard it. Just like a fork, you can do a PR and then it can be merged or or closed. So the point is, you could imagine several unresolved forks coexisting simultaneously. So when you execute an await, when you execute a component and stuff like that. And then only after you actually execute that component, you apply everything. So this will be like kind of a challenge, but like luckily Rich, Dominic, and Simon are working on this. I mean, I'm helping with some like ideas and brainstorming, but they are heavily into this and they are much better than me. So not a worry. This all sounds very complicated, but in reality is not at all different from how asynchronous updates really work. There's also client-server utilities. So obviously, as of today, in a load function, you can load the function, but then you want to, like, you can call an action, for example. And most importantly, unless you want to create a server endpoint for everything that we want to fetch, you kind of need a way to get some data from the server to the client with ease. And that's why this is actually something that Simon was working on already, and we kind of already have a POC of this. But we want to improve SvelteKit to have something, I don't know if it actually, yeah, basically the point is we want to try to make SvelteKit thinner on top of Svelte, so that you can just, for example, call a function and get that function executed on the server and fetch from the server. So we are thinking about stuff to improve SvelteKit. There are some nuances to this proposal, specifically no start transition or use transition. So this is an API that in Svelte, in Solid or React allow you to basically update state in such a way that the nearest suspense boundary doesn't show its fallback while waiting for any async work that is downstream of the state change. So basically, in Solid or React, if you trigger something like an await keyword, a suspense boundary will show the pending state. In Svelte, it will not, and you can use effect pending to show it if you want. Sorry. So what does it mean? It means that this creates the possibility that something distantly connected to a given piece of state has the power to delay changes to that state from being reflected in the UI. The alternative is that updates outside of use transition automatically show the fallback UI. So as you have seen, the pending state is only showed initially, and after the initial pending state, you are not seeing loading again. So this is just something like this was kind of controversial already, but it's not something set in stone. So if you want to comment on this PR because you think that this is not the right call, please feel free to reach out and show your use case and why you might need start transition and use transition. Overlapping update that touch the same state must be applied in linear order. So if you do have something like this, A plus B is equal to await, fetch, add A and B, then response.json. Imagine a scenario where a change to A is followed immediately by a change to B while the fetch is going. If the second fetch somehow finished first, we don't want the first fetch to be applied afterwards. Otherwise, the resulting UI will show stale values. So you change A and you are calculating the sum between A and B, and then you change B while the first fetch was still finishing. If B finished first, you still want to apply that latest B. Otherwise, you will show like stale data. So as such, a change set that includes state that is also in an earlier change set must wait for the earlier change set to resolve before it can be applied. There is a question from Enrico. I'm curious about the handling of secrets when fetching data inside async components. Are server components and async components different concept? Yes, they are kind of different concept. In the sense that obviously you cannot just fetch with an API key in a component, in an async component, right? So the changes to SvelteKit that were mentioned before is to allow you to do something like this, like to fetch something with a secret without actually getting that secret into the component. Specifically, like I think somewhere there is already this thing. I hope that I'm not spoiling everything to anyone, but the point is there will be probably something like RPC, so remote procedure call, where you can just import the function and call it on the client and on the server. So you can call it from a component, and on the server it will actually just be a function call. On the client it will be a fetch, so you will not expose the secret. Obviously, like if you are just fetching and importing a secret on a component, that will be problematic. But I suppose you're also being prevented from doing this in SvelteKit, because it will warn you if you import a secret on the client. Async deriveds are eager. So as of today, a derived in Svelte is not actually executed until it's read. So Let me show you, like if I do svelte.dev/playground, and I don't know why I'm shouting, but if I have count is equal to $state 0, I think I need to zoom in a bit more, and I have let doubled is equal to $state $derived count times 2, and actually let me do derived.by because I want to log something when this derived is executed. So if I do console.log executed, derived are currently lazy. What does it means is that if I do button on click count plus and I close the button and I do plus, let's say that I do if count %2 is equal to 1 / if, then print also doubled. Now this code is not executed the first time because you can see that we have no log because count is 0, so this doubled is not shown. So since it's not shown, it's not executed because it doesn't need to be executed. When we click here, now it is executed because again they are eager, they are not executed immediately, they are only executed when they are actually needed, just like a function call if you want. This obviously kind of changed for async derived, so if I do version branch async like this, so let's say that we are doing, I cannot technically do it, I think I have a way to do it. So function get double and I return like this, 2 derived, so get double like this. So in this case it's not an asynchronous derived, so it's executed only later. If I switch and I do wait here, it's using it outside a boundary. I need to create a new component. So let's use it here and let's import component from component, and let me use Svelte boundary, and let me render the component here. I still need to provide pending snippet pending. I don't care. So as you can see, now it's executed immediately. So the moment I run this, it's immediately executed, and it's executed again and again and again and again and again. So this needs to be like this, and we can see how by the wise word of rich Jesus Aris, because async derived is just really an effect and a source signal in a trench code. Basically, like we evaluate the expression in the effect, and when the problem is resolved, we set the source value. So basically, it's kind of looking like this. It's kind of looking like let doubled is equal to $state. And then it's kind of doing $sign effect, doubled is equal to await get double. So it's kind of this basically. Sync. It's kind of this. Like this is more or less what the derived is. Obviously, it's not just this, so don't just do this because it also has a bunch of coordination under the hood, all of that. So yeah, don't do that because it also has a bunch of stuff. For example, it allows you to await multiple things. For the most part, you don't need to think about this. There is one important implication. While it's possible to create a known derived, so you can create a derived in a .svelte.js file, it's not possible to create an unknown async derived. So you cannot use a wait derived in a class. I mean, you can technically use it, but that class needs to be instantiated in a component first, I think. I don't even, let's check. Class.svelte.js, export class test, count is equal to assign state 0, and this is not the right syntax, and double is equal to $sign derived, and async double is equal to return this dot count times 2, and I can do await this dot double. What does it say? Oh yeah, you cannot do it. I wonder if there is a way to do it. I don't know if this is just the playground, because technically, yeah, no, maybe there's no way to do it. I don't know. I will have to check. I don't know if, because technically, if you instantiate this test within a Svelte component, that derived is not unowned because it's owned by that component, and only if you instantiate the derived within the. This might just be a bug. We'll check. An important bit is that context is preserved in expression. What does it mean is that when a reaction runs, we track its dependency like this. So basically, when you get a value, so when you access a variable inside an effect, what we do is, before we invoke the effect, we set dependency to a new set, and then we calculate the dependency within the function, and then we set the dependency of a specific reaction to that reactions. This obviously means that if you do something like this, B will not actually be executed in time. Obviously, we want to avoid that, because otherwise it will not be cool for you to write. So if you write something like await A plus B, B will not be a dependency because you already awaited A. So by the time A finish running, B, like the dependency array, is already completed, like it's already emptied. But since we are a compiler, we can actually wrap every await function in another function that preserves the state and then restore it after it finishes. This, however, means that this kind of like, it's a throwback to Svelte 4, but basically, if you want to, like, the dependency inside a derived, like if you call a function, it will only track the dependency that are passed into the function or up to the first await to the thing. So like the compiler needs to see the dependency, just like in the label statement in Svelte 4. This is only if you like to up to the first await. So if you are sure that all of your dependency are within the first await, you can actually just call await without any function. But I would suggest you to pass arguments into the function so that you are sure that everything gets tracked, even if you move the await keyword. However, it means that if you extract the logic out into a function, it will be treated differently, but during development, Svelte will catch those cases and help you fix them. So obviously, like if you are not listening to me, don't worry, we will warn you in the future. There's no async derived.by, and that's simply because there's no way for you to return something that is not a promise from here. Like you cannot put an await everywhere that is not, like this will return a promise, basically. So you would probably do something like await. Yeah, basically there's no way to put the await keyword for us to know that this needs to be a derived async. But again, you can just move it to a function and just declare a function and call it. This thing is important. Focus input are not overridden. Normally, state does not update in the UI until everything that depends on it has finished resolving. This does not apply to focus input element. Otherwise, it will be a very jarring experience, because while you type, you don't want to like catch up with your thing. So, based on how async reactivity works, there is one small and unavoidable breaking change that I was talking before. Before update and effect.preCallback no longer run before control flow blocks are updated, which means that if you're using those callback to set states that control flow logic, which again you shouldn't update it, you might experience breaking change. So what does it mean is that if you're doing something like setting a state like let show is equal $state false. Let's say that you're doing something like this. You're using effect.pre and you do show is equal count times 2 is equal to 0, right? Let's say that you do something like this and then you're using if show to show doubled, to show something, like this is technically working. I wouldn't say that it's a good thing to do, but this is technically working, as you can see. However, this will not work anymore if you are using async, and that's the breaking change. Because if you are using async, and I think I can actually show you this. Yeah, I think I can. Like, let's say that I do await 3 in the thing. Let me show actually count, because I think this is showing the old value. So this is not a good example. I don't know how, but it's working. But the point is, this is a bit of a breaking change. So if you're using effect.pre to set control flow logic, like the thing that I was about to show you, you can experience some breakage. So basically, if you're not doing this kind of stuff, you can actually use this today. I mean, I wouldn't advise for you to use it in production if you are on an important project, but if you are on your personal blog, go bonker with it and just use it and report back any bug that you find. Congratulations to those of you who are still there. So happy of all of you, and that's it. So if you want to comment on this, reply, if you find any bug, please help us fix this. And by the way, I just want to show you that there is solid, Ryan, solid, which also approves. So also proves this way of thinking. So yeah, like if you were skeptical, also Ryan, which is very deep into this kind of stuff, approve this kind of behavior. So that was it. It was a very long episode, also because of my technical problems. Sorry, but I hope that you learned something. I hope you found this interesting, and I cannot wait to see you at Svelte Summit next week. See you in Barcelona. Peace out. Bye.